Hello, this is a U3A upright piano, 130 centimetres tall, made in 1983. It's in our storage area, moving from A to B in transit. We've been asked to assess the piano, and there is work to do on it, definitely. Just having a look, as you can see on the photo, this is characteristic of some Yamahas, is that they get yellow fronts. I'm not quite sure which ones exactly or why. If you're in the trade and know the answer to that, it would be wonderful to hear. But this is particularly yellow. You can change the fronts, obviously, but it doesn't really matter. It's just cosmetic. The client's mentioned that this needs polishing up. Well, that's obviously an easy job, but the pedals also need polishing up. And the case is in good condition, not perfect, but just basically very good, and just needs cleaning, I think. So that's not too much work. We think this is really one of the top models of Yamaha uprights. 1983 is a very good year, as we've mentioned many times before. 1965 to about 1985 is the best period. Please collaborate that if you're in the trade or if you disagree. But the tone of these is very rich. As you see here, there's very little wear on the hammers. The client says it's been played a lot originally and then practically not at all. And in fact, the pitch is about 4-3-4, so it's dropped tremendously, not been tuned for a long time. The unisons are generally not too bad, but the full resonant tone there, where you really need it in the mid treble and the tenor. Quite a good match there, it's out of tune. Good break point's always a sign of a good make. And powerful bass, and so altogether one of the best Yamahas. And one feature on this one, you might have noticed it doesn't have a celeste, but it does have a middle pedal. So what does the middle pedal do? So normally if we press a note, let's say this C sharp here, and we let it go, the damper goes back down. But with the middle pedal pressed, first of all I press the note, then I press the middle pedal, and the damper stays off. And that's an interesting feature, and you could use that, for instance, as a bagpipe drone. If I play that fifth there, just hold it on. So if I don't push my foot on the pedal, they cut off. Push my foot on the middle pedal, and they hold on. So you could then play. But of course you could hold that with the left hand and play that, but it frees up both hands. So let's have a listen to that. So I've now got the action out of the piano. We can see this is the normal damper lift rod here, and so normally the damper finishes here, but they've got this extension here. So normally the damper finishes there. You need enough room for the spoon. That's on the key. The spoon operates the damper there, and then that's the lift rod for the pedal. But we have this extra SOSTENUTO down the bottom here, so it's an extension, and as these are lifted off, you can see that will hold it. So as you press the key and the damper's lifted off, and then it's held by this bar here. Actually, unlike on a grand piano where the SOSTENUTO doesn't have an effect on the touch, it does on this one. So on the notes that you aren't being sustained with the SOSTENUTO, if you press the pedal there, then that rubber piece catches and does impede the touch quite considerably. It's much more difficult to control. It's possible to control, but much more difficult to control, especially for soft playing. The regulation on the piano is very good, as we'll see on the worksheet in a minute. Dampers are coming off about halfway. The bit noisy, this sustain pedal, might be able to hear that. So apart from that though, the capstans are tight to the top part of the action, and the regulation's good. So the back checks are quite close, but that doesn't really matter too much, and it really is normally 5/8 we'd set them at. You can see a voicing line on that hammer there, so someone's taken care of this piano. Something else I wanted to point out is that the last damper here, which is an F, that goes about one damper higher than normal, is a half damper. So if you listen to it, it means that it's graduated. So that's fully damped. That's half damped, meaning there's not such a change between, as you get the dampers, as it were. They're phased in better if it's a half damper on that one. So it's quite commonly done. So on the worksheet summary, I've mentioned the fact is SOSTENUTO. Not very many SOSTENUTO upright Yamahas on the market in the UK anyway. So it's a piano we're really keen to get hold of if we can, to begin into stock. But this is obviously a client's piano, so we try and improve it and make it as much like a stock piano as we can. Do the same sort of work on it. So yellow fronts I mentioned, we can change the fronts. They'd certainly detract if we were going to resell it. So that would be an interesting possibility if you want that done. Pitch raising to 442 is, well, it's standard work really. 442 means that then it's going to take a while to come down to 440, and so it won't need quite so much tuning, which is good for the piano, because if the tuning pins are turned all the time, then they tend to get loose. I mentioned that before. So noisy sustain, and then polishing up the pedals, cleaning the case. The key weighting is not too bad. Bit of variety there, but generally as you'd expect it to be. But I have said that it does need lubricating on the balance rail, so that's something we will standardly do, and that will even out the weighting hopefully a bit more. So high quality instrument, very pleased to be able to work on it. Something I didn't notice when I made the assessment sheet is that there's a loop cord broken here. You see that spring that's attached to nothing, and that spring's attached to the loop cord as it should be. And if you can see the loop cord down here where it's missing, it might be possible for you to just about see it on the video. Sorry if it's not very visible, but that very often they do break on Yamahas. They need checking, and so it's quite common. So changing them all is obviously quite an extensive job. Might be worthwhile though. If one loop cord's broken, then they might be perishing, so it might be necessary to do them all. I'll have more of an inspection of that. So that's a U3A made in 1983, and the special feature on this is it has a SOSTENUTO pedal. Not many Yamaha uprights have SOSTENUTO pedals, that weren't in the UK certainly, and if you press the pedal down, if I press the notes and press the pedal, you can see they hold on. So it's an interesting feature, and you can use it like this. So it's not a lot of musicians use it, but it's there to be used if you want it to. Generally speaking, the middle pedal on grands, there's often SOSTENUTO, but it's very, very rarely used. So if you've got any comments on that, please do leave them. So it's certainly one of our favourite pianos. We're always pleased when we get one into stock, and we'll treat this piano like as it was a stock piano and do the kind of things that we would do if it was our own piano. So I hope that's helpful. It's a bit out of tune, so I'm not going to play too much at the moment, but if you have a piano and you like it assessed as it's moving from A to B, please let us know and we'll see if we can help. If you'd like some help, please write to info@robertspianos.com. It's a bit mellower than it would be when it was new. By the way, if you're thinking buying a Yamaha of this age is not as good as buying a new one, my preference is for tones of pianos between 1965 and 1965 and 1985 approximately. So I think it's a wise thing to buy a piano of this age, and the bass strings aren't that much different from when they were new. There's obviously brand new strings are slightly crisper, but really the general overall tone is not much different from when it was new, except that the hammers have been worn in. So thank you very much for listening. I hope that's been helpful.